All right, Scott Redler, welcome back to Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep. How are you doing?
Doing just dandy on the second day of the third quarter. How you guys doing?
Good. It's kind of a slower news day in terms of, big headlines. We're still waiting for Tesla's delivery numbers. Those should be coming pretty soon here. And then you got Powell speaking later today. What have you been watching? What's on top of mind for
Well,
you?
before we do that, before we talk market, when I say how you doing to Scott, I'm like, how you doing, Scott? I know you had a health issue to deal with. So the number one more important thing is,
There you go.
how are you feeling? I see you working from the sauna today. Are you doing what you're supposed to do?
I might be doing a little bit more than I'm supposed to do, but I rarely do less. That's my mantra. But thank you for asking. Yeah, for those of you who've been asking, I did. So to make a long story short, 8 weeks ago I had poison ivy, and I thought that I potentially needed prednisone because I'm very allergic. My
Oh, wow.
primary care doctor took a stethoscope, heard I had a heart murmur. She's like, I never heard that before. She sent me for an echocardiogram. So to make a long story short, I had no idea I had it. I had no symptoms, and I was sent for open heart surgery to close my mitral valve. So
Mhm.
about 4 weeks ago, I was sitting on an operating table. They had my heart in neutral. They deflated my lung.
Wow.
I had tubes coming out of everywhere, and now here I am. And this weekend, I already went for a walk and a jog. Sunday, I did a little bit of a video from the sauna. Went in my ice barrel without ice, just hose water to get back in the scheme of it. And all I gotta say is, something comes up, deal with it. I know they had a date. My surgery was actually supposed to be tomorrow. So I would still be waiting for it. Instead, they had an opening. So I put myself through what I had to go through a month ago. And now here I am on the other side of it. So my one suggestion to everyone is if you have a problem and you have a situation, don't put it off because you think it might, you know, not be the best thing to deal with. Once you deal with it and put it behind you, you could start to recover and get back on firmer ground. And that's where I am right now. And they do say that in 4 months from now, I could be in better shape than I was 5 months ago. So I'm very optimistic, and I have gratitude for modern technology because they said if this happened about 150 years ago, I'd probably be dead in about 6 months.
Wow. Wow. You look great, Scott. I mean, you look like
Sound good.
like
It's the
like
sound too. The sound. The sound
Oh,
is good too.
he
yeah,
You
looks
sound
great.
strong. You sound strong. But
Yeah.
I see you got a chart for us down there. I know people that want to hear about the markets and post expiration consolidation station here. Waiting for our next catalyst. What are you looking at, Scott?
well, I've been managing a bunch of positions for a few weeks now because we've had a really good market, right? We've had a lot of good movement in tech. I know a lot of you guys are watching. I think last time we were on it, we couldn't have pounded the table more about Amazon and Apple and some of these mega cap tech names and some semis. So anyway, for today, if you take a quick look here, I'm this is very important. This is the spies. Okay, we're in this upper range, right? So basically 542.45 has been holding for almost 2 weeks now. So
Hmm.
I always talk about upper complexion. So the question is, right now we're at 543.23, down $2. Um, do we hold here and go green, or do they shake the tree and break below this, and all of a sudden you'll be testing the 21-day and the gap below? So this to me is important today. If it holds and goes, I've already bought a little bit of Amazon this morning. I feel like Amazon's actually green in a sea of red. If you remember
Mm.
when we were on the last time, we were talking about the potential trade above this 189, 191, went to 199.83. Guys made a lot of money. This was, every now and then, like, we trade for a living and we wait for that big money trade, and the big money trade doesn't happen often. Sometimes we're always knick-knacking, hitting singles. But last week really was the time to hit a really big money trade in Amazon. And now the question is, if the market holds in there, there might even be a trade today again for this to get above 198.30 to 199 to continue. It just, even though this only looks like a range since April, this really is like a 3-year range. We just got above this, from 2021. So it's good to see that something really is working where, got above this, got above that, and now it's extending. So for today, I think this will be interesting to see if it could hold and go. So that's been a focus of mine since last week. I know you guys just mentioned the delivery numbers for Tesla, but thank goodness they already gave us that trade too. Look at Tesla. Last week we were, a lot of Twitter was all focused on this also, including me. This was another big money trade. I actually had 2 big money trades happen together, which hasn't happened in a while. I mean, listen, I'm not talking smack, but it doesn't. But it happened last week. So last week, if you remember, things started to get a little tighter, and Tesla finally started showing some relative strength. So this was the money trade right here when it got above 188. If you remember that day, it was actually flat. I was in 192.5 calls, 195 calls, and now to me this trade is over, even though everyone thinks it can get to 228. But this was the trade, and now we'll see, what the deliveries are. The deliveries can't just be a little better than feared now after a move like this. So anyway.
Is it over because you hit your target, or did you get trailed out of it?
Nah, I just feel like I made enough money. I feel like as bad as a trade to say, you never want to count the money, but like, you have a cut now. It's above the 8 day. It's in no man's land. It's also sometimes you trade like a stock before earnings, and it gives you a pre-earnings play what you thought would happen with earnings, and then you already had it, so you're out of it. So this was what I was looking at if the deliveries were good, and it happened prior to deliveries. So to me, the risk reward just isn't there anymore. So yeah, can I be in a little bit? I just said, forget it. I don't feel like giving 25% back of my trailer. And if it goes to 228, you know what? I don't really care.
Talk about your time horizon, Scott, overall, because we have you on the show lots. But, is your average trade like 2-3 days? Can it be longer, shorter? What's your average trade? Like, what's a Scott Redler average, trade look like, the time horizon of it?
Listen, my meaty trade that I love is a 1 to 3 day time horizon where something gets really tight and goes where I can get to like a tier 3. But then once it gets through that point, I could manage that trade for weeks and months as long as it's acting well. As long as I could buy a dip on like a day like today, let it go green, sell some, and stay with the swing versus being trapped in a predatory situation. Like right now, this Amazon trade, who knows? I might have this thing on for more weeks. Like I've had this Amazon trade on since June 20th. Okay. So, and I hopefully will have it on because it's been giving you a lot of great tradable action where even on that mechanical sell on Friday with the rebalance, you could have bought the close, took no pain yesterday, regrouped. Today, the futures are down, 20 handles. It's up $1. So it's acting what I call special. So I'll stay with it as long as it stays special. I've been with Apple for a while too. If you guys remember, after the event, we had a bunch of options on Ford. I stayed with it up until here, and I've been in this Apple trade pretty much this whole time. Again, and I bought the mechanical dip on Friday because of the rebalance, and now I'm hoping that this trade could get above 217.50 and 220. So as long as if it would have broken this 210, I might have been out of it, because then the trade changed, or maybe I would have given it to 206, and if it would have broken that, maybe I would have been out of it. But this is really giving me no reason to get out of it, and it's giving me ways to create cash flow because I'm engaged watching the name. So my term is special. If a stock's acting special, I'll stay with it, and I'll massage it, and I'll use my tier system. But once all of a sudden it closes strong and then gaps down and doesn't give you a way out and starts acting predatory, I'll be done with it. And it depends on the market. If all of a sudden
tactical question for you here, Scott. You talked about when you say trailer, you're talking about trailing stops, right? Obviously, what do you use? What mechanics, technicals, closing prices? What do you use for some of your trailers?
points of reference, moving averages, where it shouldn't get to for the trade to change. Some people have something on for a momentum trade. Some people have it as an incubation trade, waiting for it to, be in a range and go. Some people, so for me, if I'm in a trade for a reason, I use a stop for if the trade changes. And it could be for my size. It could be a strong stock that's been strong in the morning, and all of a sudden I'm going to go, do a workout midday, and there's a level that it shouldn't break for it to stay strong, to maybe I'll follow through in the close, and that could be the stop on a certain portion of it. And then there's a different stop based on, if the trade changes on a more intermediate basis. So it all depends, on what you're looking for. So I would say to traders out there, don't put a stop in based on, how much you're willing to lose. Do it on whether or not the reason you're in a trade changes. Like, so for right now, if you're in a trade for Apple, so for instance, if you think Apple is going to break above 220.20 this week, next week, it probably shouldn't break 210. So if all of a sudden Apple gets below 210, chances are it's going to take more than a few days or a week to get above 220. So that would be a stop of some size. Then if the market's going to change and mega cap tech isn't going to be great, then it should really not break 206. So in my head, those are the two spots. Same way you could do with other things. Like a lot of people are starting to look like, just say TTD. This stock has been up here for so long. It's been waiting and waiting and waiting. I have options on. Okay, so I would say 99.50 there's a chance it takes that out, but if it breaks 95, the chances are it's not sooner than later. So there's ways to just measure the strength and the speed, and then depending on the strength and the speed is what tier size you want to be in. Let's go one more. So what trade am I incubating right now? Guys are talking about this ENVX, right? So right now, I think people think this can continue to the upside, right? There are two levels in my head that I'm thinking. Right now, I'm only in a feeler, just so this way I don't lose sight of it, just in case it gets better. So this is one spot, which is really tight. You probably shouldn't be giving this to 14.59, because the way these things trade, sometimes they try and just take your lunch, and that's probably too tight. So if you go here, like just say 14.59 is one spot. So right here, this would be one spot that if it holds this and goes, chances are it's going to be fast. If it breaks it, really, I'm trading along versus 13.75. There's a nice pro gap here. If this were to break, then all of a sudden momentum's leaving and it's a different trade, and I don't need to be there because I have no, I have no love for this name. It's just not, it's just a day in the life and a potential setup. So when the setup changes, I change.
Got it. And Scott, what would be your sign to maybe go short or buy puts on some of these like big name tech stocks? When you were talking about your Tesla trade or Amazon, something like that, have you started to find some names that you like to the downside?
Not really.
Okay.
I rarely trade two sides of the market. I'll let you know what I did do. You go to the spies. So, I'll just be in less and I'll be tactical. If we were all of a sudden to break this area like yesterday. So what I did is yesterday I bought the 540 puts for July 19th. So just in case the market corrects, just in case it happens with a jobs report or with some kind of conflict geopolitically, whether it's on the border of Lebanon and Israel or whether something whatever it is, I'm like, you know what, let me go out 3 weeks and I'll buy or July 19th and buy the 540 puts. So I have the 540 puts on top of, so this is the virtual trading floor, so this is like the positions that I have on now, which everyone gets to see because I'm as transparent as possible. These are people talking, whatever. So I still have some option stuff on for Apple. I have the 217.5s, which you could see. I have the 220s for the 5th and the 12th if it wants to break out. I'm also long the stock. Amazon, I'm long the stock. I'm also in some 200s that I rolled up from the 192.50s and the 195s on Friday into that pull-in. But then I also just said, hey, you know what? Let me buy some 540 puts just in case. Okay, like today, it's good. We're down 2 points. I might take a third off to trade around. And I'm also short some 547 calls to collect some premium because I didn't think we'd get above 547 today. So that's good. And then I also went out and shorted the 552.50 calls for the 12th, saying, hey, if we don't get there, I'll collect $1 and change. And if we do get there, I'll make a lot of money on my long premium and my stocks. So I'm always managing. But to be honest, I don't have the bandwidth to play things both ways. Like if you would have said, hey, Amazon's over, I'm shorting the hell out of it here because you had one candle that took out another candle but didn't realize it was above the 8-day, you lost short and you were out of your stock. So I don't like to lose both ways. But if we're in a real downtrend for multiple months.
What's that? What's a downtrend?
Been a while.
Unless you're in solar stocks, right? Or
Nike.
Nike or IW.
There are stocks that are in downtrends, and there are other sectors that are in downtrends, but not the spies. So it makes me laugh all the time, like when everyone's complaining about, well, there's only 12 stocks that are making up the S&P gains. Okay, you could do two things. You could be in an S&P fund for 30 years, put money in every single month, and then you want it to go up because you do that for retirement and life and wealth. And then if you trade like we do, just be in those damn 18 stocks that look the best, showing relative strength, that have the best patterns. Don't be in the other, 82% of the stocks that you're trying to find the bottom or trying to pick when they're going to turn. So you could do it two ways: long-term monthly flows, or be a stock picker and use the charts. But stop complaining, because there's way too many people complaining out there.
All right, Scott, before we let you go, we've got this QR code up on the screen for your free ebook. What can viewers get if they go sign up for that?
Which ebook is it?
Let's see.
Is it the Pro Gap earnings ebook, or is it the moving average ebook?
Let me figure it out real quick.
Well, what we do is I have a bunch of ebooks which teaches you guys how to fish. It's not plays, but it's or I'm not telling you what stock to buy.
It's the free indicator one.
Oh, okay. Well, indicators are things that I use that help me in my decision-making process. So what I would say is click on that, get a free ebook, and learn. And then if you Google Scott Redler, YouTube, there's probably about 20 different ebooks that we've made, which are all the things that I've put together since 1997, as I've been doing this for a long time. They're all different types of setups, whether it's the red dog reversal, whether it's moving averages, whether it's a tier system, whether it's the day count rules, whether it's how to use a pro earnings gap to set up a swing trade. These are all things all of us use, and they're things that are out there that people can learn and develop their own process with. So that's all it is it's a free educational ebook, and then potentially maybe there's also a link to some kind of deal we're doing for the Alpha team, which is over 500 professional traders around the world that share ideas, or the Redler All Access Note, which is something I write from 4:45 in the morning that goes out at 8:30 to give you what I'm looking at for the day to make some cash flow, and what potentially the narrative is the market, and what just what's going on. So there's probably something you can learn and some kind of deal if you wanted to join our community.
All right, well, there you go. Make sure to hit that QR code. We also have a link in the description for that ebook. Scott, always a pleasure to have you on Pre-Market Prep. Glad you are recovering well. It's great to see you, and we'll chat soon.
Sounds great. Have a great day, guys. Have a great July 4th.